Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Hockey Life podcast presented by Skaters Network. My name's Sean Saunter, a former player and now Instagram button pusher for skaters, and each week I'm going to be joined by my co-host Brian Funes of the Sydney Bears. We're going to be sitting down and chatting with players, coaches and influential figures from within our hockey community here in Australia. We're going to be taking a look back at the history, where the game is today, and ponder questions about what we think the future of hockey is down under. This first episode, we're going to be having a chat with Brian about his hockey career, where it came from, some of the highlights, and there's even a few training tips in there. This is the Hockey Life podcast. Brian Funes. Brian, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, so Brian, I've played against you and with you on a team, but now I really want to throw it all the way back. Okay, where did hockey start for you, and what were your first memories of coming into contact with the sport?
So, give a bit of context. My parents are South American, so my dad's from Argentina, mum's from Chile, and I came across hockey, being a 90s baby, Mighty Ducks movies, some highlights, some NHL Olympic stuff that I'd come across as a young kid, and just something about the sport that I was just immediately drawn to, and it was something that it just caught my attention, and I just wanted to play that. I didn't know what it was, neither did my parents, but I was like, that, I want to play that. And after a bit of nagging, my parents finally busted open the yellow pages and had a look, and first rink that they found that was close was the Blacktown ice rink, and once I jumped on the ice, that was it was game over.
So what was the first bit of gear? Because I remember when Mighty Ducks came out, I think my brother and I scored some wooden Franklin sticks with like fluoro green blades that like bolted onto the end.
Yeah.
And they were dead straight. And I couldn't puck handle because there was no curve.
No.
But we were into it and that was off. So did you get like a first stick or like some weird accumulation of gear back then?
Oh, so like back when I first started, it was just all hand-me-down gear. So whatever was available at the time. Luckily, the way that the Blacktown rink, they had something set up for kids that wanted to get into the sport. So they had old school like granny bags that are filled with just hand-me-down gear that people have donated to the rink. So I would just wear whatever was available and had the rentals on at the beginning and whatever stick was available, but I'm sure it was some really heavy piece of wood that I had. I was just lugging around.
Well, that sounds way better than mine, because I remember getting like the first set of gear and it was like the back of Penrith somewhere, just some random guy that we had met at D-League at the rink, and he's like, oh, I got gear for you, and then we ended up at his house and we talked for like, we had to listen to him for like hours, and then we got this like grouping of just terrible gear.
Just
but I mean, at the
mishmash,
point, it was before, all the different stores, and we didn't know anything different, so we got this stuff. I think it was like $100, and I had like 2 sets of gloves that were like 16-inch. I looked like Gretzky. Like they're fully ripped palms. No leather left.
There was never a palm.
That's what I just remember was like playing.
If you're getting hand-me-down gloves, there's no chance you're getting a decent set of palms on them. So yeah.
It's an amazing time right in that beginning. Like you get your gear. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're just so in love with it. You're like, this is the best.
Whatever got you on the ice, that was it. Like just whatever the bare minimum that counted as equipment. Like I could have strapped newspapers to my shins if it meant that I could get on the ice. But yeah, for me it was a long time of hand-me-downs and whatever the rink had available, and people from the club, they're like, oh, I got this thing, I got these shin pads, they might fit you. Okay, cool. It was like free, $20, whatever, I'll take it. After a while, when my parents were finally convinced, okay, doesn't seem like he's going to leave the sport anytime soon, so we might as well get him some stuff that fits him.
And I think that's a huge part of it, isn't it? Because right in that beginning time when you're starting to play, you almost really have to prove your commitment to your parents that they've invested a little bit, but it's going to be more, and there's going to be lots of driving. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're just training all the time. You're like saying, yeah, I'm doing this forever.
Yeah,
and like,
exactly.
you got to play the role.
You have to show mum and dad they're like, this isn't a joke. Like, I actually want to play this sport for forever. So
I know. And then, you know, you just got to keep working at it. And then they realize, because, you know, obviously when you're that young, you're just so passionate about it, and nothing comes close. Like, not soccer. I mean, look, South American. I mean, it could come close, but
well, yeah, they're probably the only thing that. Yeah, I'm sure they tried a few times rolling the soccer ball and like, oh, try, come on, you might like it. Like, nah, hockey the whole way. Yeah,
so good. So Blacktown Flyers from the beginning.
Yeah.
And now, was that Pee-wees or Adams? Like, what kind of age?
That was Adams that I got into playing organised hockey. And then, just stayed with Blacktown my whole junior career with them all the way through.
A bit of a dynasty back then, to be honest.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of actual... I was pretty lucky that I had a group of players that came across from inline. One of them being Nathan Walker. You might have heard of him.
Yeah,
not a big deal.
Have heard of him.
Yeah, and a bunch of the guys that came from inline, they were just had incredible hands and were just amazing hockey players. Stopping was a bit of an issue, but they figured it out pretty quickly. So there was a strong group of players that we had through the Blacktown organisation. So I was pretty lucky to be surrounded with a lot of guys that not only were good, but they were like passionate about the game as well. Like they actually cared about, developing and, getting better and winning. So we were pretty lucky that throughout, from like Pee-wees all the way to midgets, there was a few championships along the way. So yeah, we were pretty good back then.
Yeah, I remember the Flyers.
Yeah, we had a few run-ins.
Yeah, there was. There was a few key market players in the Flyers that seemed to just stick around, and just a bit of a loaded squad for a lot of years.
Yeah. You knew if you just passed it to Storm, you'll get a couple points.
All right, so we're through Pee-wees. Just so we're clear, Pee-wees, you were playing as a forward at that point.
Yeah, I started as a forward, and then I switched to defense, and then I made the state team as a defenseman. So
yeah, and so that was Pee-wees, and then so moving into Bantams, your defense all over, like that's, and you knew it. So transitioning for that, were you enjoying the change of like playing defense? Did you find any upside in switching from forward to defense?
Yeah, definitely got more ice time. So I was like, I think this is for me. And yeah, I think I just took a bit more pride in the defensive side of the game, and just trying to be a shutdown defenseman.
Yeah.
So I kind of like took that role upon myself, and sort of made that, wanted to develop that, essentially be a defensive defenseman. So that's kind of like where it really took off for me, where I took ownership of that role.
Yep. And were you doing a lot of training at home at that point? And like, could you see that you really wanted hockey to be your number one thing, and you wanted to go far at that point? Like, was there some commitment to that and that kind of a goal? Yeah,
definitely. Like, I think at that point, once you're starting to, those are the key puberty years where you're starting to develop physically, and I was doing a lot of sport, not only just hockey, but also I did rowing at school, did bit of rugby union, and a bit of football, aka soccer. So I think that definitely helped as well, just playing those different sports as well, developing athletically, and taking that more seriously. I felt like that, I could see that translate to my game on the ice as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so stepping up Bantams, midgets. What kind of a defenseman were you in midgets? Were you kind of like, hitting's a huge part. Were you someone who was really chasing the puck and trying to move and make plays? Or were you someone who was really like keyed in on making those hits and like chasing dudes around the ice? Yeah,
so like I wasn't really like looking for the massive hits. We already had a guy on our team who would take care of that, and yeah.
I think I know who it is.
Yeah.
Start with a B.
Bo Niha.
Yeah, that's
Absolute weapon. Like, just built like a man at like the age of 14. So, and he was just he was a force out there. So he had that side covered. But yeah, I just tried to make that nice first pass out, get a few apples, and if I could get a few Genos along the way too, then I was pretty much happy with that. So yeah, we had a lot of star power in our with our forwards. So if you just gave it to one of those guys, you'll get an apple at least once a game.
And so, okay, so you finish high school, and then, am I correct in thinking you're going straight overseas? Like you had teed it up to go and play in the States?
Yeah, so during like year 11 and 12, I was looking online for some hockey schools to try and play overseas in Canada.
Yep.
Had a friend, Wahib Daj, friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod,
Shout
Wahib.
out.
How you going?
Shout out Wahib. He'd played overseas for a hockey school. I think it was over in like Quebec or Montreal, somewhere in French Canadian spot. So I was trying to look for just anywhere that would take me to play, whether it be midget or juniors. And I found a place called Banff Hockey Academy. It's no longer around, but back then because they were a hockey school, they were allowed to bring in more international players in for their team. So I was pretty lucky to be accepted by them. I sent them an email, and they'd done a couple of interviews with some coaches of mine to confirm that if they thought that I could play at that level. And luckily for me, they gave me the tick of approval. Got the email saying that I got accepted to go. And yeah, when I finished my exams, probably a few days after, I was packed and ready to go. It was either that or, go to schoolies. Those were the two options that my parents gave me. It was a no-brainer for me.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Definitely
100%.
made the right choice.
Yeah, 100%. And Banff is a nice... It's a place you can have some fun there as well. So I think
that's so
you've been
good.
to Banff too.
Yeah, I've been to Banff.
It's good little ski town.
It's
A lot of
good
Aussies
time.
there.
Yeah, a lot of Aussies.
Going to the cafe and you just bump into someone from like Melbourne or something. Like what? It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's a good spot. This week's episode proudly supported by the lightest vapor stick in the game. Coming in at 360 grams and built with revolutionary blade technology that snaps the puck like never before, the Hyperlight 2 stick is the lightest, most advanced vapor stick that's ready to push your game to a whole new level. Available July 28th. It's a good spot. Now, I mean, look, back then, it wasn't like it is now. Like, there is a lot of different players going overseas and playing over there. But back then, you were like one of a handful. Like, it wasn't happening as much as we see it now. Yeah. So, I mean, going into that process, like, were you training even more before you were getting there? Or, like, what was it like that first training session? Like, hitting the ice, different country, different settings, different structure, team. Like, what was that like?
Well, it's a bit of... like you're jumping into like a proper hockey country, first of all. Like you're just going to Canada, the mecca of hockey. Not only that, you're playing against men. So I'm 17. I started school a year early, so I wasn't even 18. I turned 18 midway through the season in January. So I was playing midget games, but I played all the junior B games with that team, and it is a very eye-opening experience. A lot of anxiety leading up there because I didn't know what to expect. Like those thoughts run through your head. Like, am I even good enough? Like, am I just gonna get like crushed here, and then I just like don't get any ice time and all that sort of stuff? So I was definitely ramping up the training just out of pure fear of getting embarrassed, and I was just scared of being laughed off the ice there. But fortunately, had good coaches there that sort of helped me develop my game, and I got to play both forward and defense. There, so at the beginning, I was shitting myself, to be honest. Yeah. In my first junior game, first time wearing a visor. And literally my first shift, just a shot, somehow the puck just hit me right between the eyeballs hits the visor. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just freaking out. But I settled in pretty quickly. Luckily, I had a couple of other Aussies that were playing in Banff. And they took me under their wing, and they really helped me get comfortable with the game. And I had a lot of ice time to really prepare myself. So it was freaky at the beginning though.
And so what were the kind of lessons that you learnt early, playing on such a smaller rink than what you were used to? Yeah,
so it was just getting comfortable with just executing at a higher, not just a higher level, but like obviously a faster speed. So
Yeah.
you have to be moving all the time. You have to be like making those plays a lot quicker. You know, here a little bit more room. The plays aren't as fast. Coming from playing midgets in Australia, you know, you're able to make plays with a little bit more time. Whereas over there, it was North American style, move it up north, get it in deep, you know, chip away down low. So for me, it was just just adjusting to the speed and just executing at that speed, you know, consistently as well. Because, you know, if you're making a mistake here and there, you'll get sat. Like if you can't hang, there's someone else that's waiting there ready to go. So it was, that was the part that I had to really adjust when moving there.
Oh man, that's the best. Okay, so come back, 2009 season, ECSL, all right, playing for the Raptors. What a team. So you're into it, and you're working there, and then also in 2009, the U18 Oz team.
Yep.
So, I mean, going overseas, coming back, East Coast, and then getting selected for the U18. How was that for your kind of progression and career? Was that a big moment?
So that was a massive goal for me at the time. I was, you know, in the bantam sort of age. I would look up to those guys that were playing on the national team at the U18 level, U20 level. They were essentially the guys that I would look up to, and that was one of the things that I wanted to, you know, have on my that was on my bucket list, to make the under-18s team. You know, solidify that in my mind that I was like in that conversation as one of the better players in the country, and I was fortunate enough to be selected for that team. So I came off the season from Canada, played that U18 tournament, and we won gold as well. It was in Chinese Taipei. It was an unreal spot to go to. The rink was beautiful. The hotel was unreal. And just being part of that whole experience, you've played.
I played. I got a question about.
Yeah, I was going to say you. I was going to say like you got a U18.
No, that was my only green and gold. Somehow I slipped through onto the roster.
Hey, man,
but my question is this, right? When we were getting prepared for the U18 team, they sent out like a training roster of like each player. It's up to you. Do this training at home. And like it had some stuff on it. I was committed. Like fully committed.
So I remember push-ups every morning.
I was so committed. I rode my bike to and from school like the months leading up to it. It was like 12 Ks each way.
Jeez.
So my question to you is this. Was everyone following that training routine? Because I remember I got to training camp in Canada and I was like, so how'd everyone go? Like, you know, we've all been doing this training, man. I've been riding my bike. And everyone looked at me and just goes, man, I haven't done that. And I was like,
oh, I'm a chump. It might have been the same document. Like what? They probably just recycled the same document. Like what year did you make?
Did you see the bike part of it? No, it was 2007. I don't know. So
okay, yeah. So I would have been just a couple of years after. So
I still rode the bench, but I was fit.
Yeah,
like, it was good.
Yeah, I know Pierre was pretty. Our coach, he was pretty. You know, he was pretty focused on all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but usually it's hard because you don't have those opportunities to train together.
Yep.
So it's really, you take it upon yourself to be prepared. And for me, it was more so like, I don't want to screw up this opportunity to represent Australia and be a dud. Like, nothing worse than going over there and just like riding the pine for the whole tournament because you're like the fourth D pairing.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for calling me out there.
Come on, you got a couple of minutes here and there. No, I'm sure you got a point.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was chasing points back then. I was very defensively minded. You know, I was more focused on just.
You're just for the team, right?
Getting
you're
that
just
pass
for the team.
away. You know, just getting the water.
Just get cross the red line, chip it in deep, and then change. Just
make a good hit. That's it.
You see that, coach? Yeah. You see it? I got it in deep. You see that?
No, if I could have my time again, honestly, but that's another story for another podcast. All right, so you come back from that, 2011. Okay, Sydney Ice Dogs.
Yes.
Making your first appearance. So you had been training with the Dogs before that, like just, you know, pre-season, things like that.
Yep.
And so you kind of had a good progression there, you know, playing for the Flyers, you knew that you were going to end up at the Dogs.
Yeah, so like coming from the Blacktown rink, that's the the birthplace of the Ice Dogs. That's where it all started. I always looked up to all the guys on that team. You know, there was rattle off so many names that have been on the national team. You got like Willow, Whitey, Tomo, all those guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's Manx. There's so many on that Ice Dogs team that had represented Australia, played overseas at a high level. So for me, it was always like I was always very. Obviously, it's disappointing not making the team for so long because I was trying out for years. And I always had like buddies of mine that would make the cut and I would just be like just outside, like I would just miss out and get that old like, oh, so maybe next year type thing. And yeah, so there was a bit of a coaching change. 2011, Ronnie stepped in as head coach and he brought me in into the roster, which I'm extremely thankful for. And I felt like the years playing at the East Coast level, that was always. I wasn't satisfied playing at that level. Like AIHL was always one of my goals to make a team and play for the Dogs as a Blacktown boy. So, you know, if it wasn't the Dogs, I didn't want to play. And then finally got the shot in 2011 to be part of the roster, and didn't look back since.
And I mean, that was a stacked roster and a very tough team.
Oh my God!
Like, I mean, look, playing now in the AIHL. From a fan perspective, I was in there back then, and it seemed like it was a bit of a different league. Like there was a lot of grudge match, and there was a lot of
legitimate hatred towards.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, it was hatred.
Like you can feel it like when you're watching the game, but then like being in the change room as well. They're like, no, we have to kill these guys. I'm like, all right, and that's the mindset that you had to be in because it felt like war every time in those derby matches.
I definitely think that one thing about the Dogs was they always had each other's back, and they were such a close knit group. Like
100%.
It
definitely felt like a brotherhood. Like that was one of the coolest things about being part of that team at that time was I came into the team and they all sort of like embraced me in terms of like I think I was the only rookie that year.
Yeah.
I think Storm played a couple of games and then went back to Czech. So like I think I was the only like legitimate rookie that year. So even though I was the rookie, they were very much take me under their wing, show me the ropes without chucking me in the deep end too bad. And when you have like those weapons, those massive units like out there, you feel a little bit safer making those plays. If like you get like a dirty play done on you, someone has to answer to like Whitey or what, you don't want to deal with that guy.
They were definitely a big team.
Weapons.
So coming into the AIHL then, coming from East Coast, you're obviously playing a lot of minutes. You're all over the ice. You're kind of moving it wherever you want. Coming into then the Dogs, are they giving you a certain role within that team? Like, what was your job coming in there?
Yeah, a lot of the guys from the defensive core they were great because I would learn from them not only just by like what they tell me, but just watching them play. So when you're with a D partner that's a veteran. Them in particular, they were quite vocal on the ice to make it easier for me in the sense of like letting me know if I had more time or, just simple stuff like that gives you a little bit more confidence when you actually have the puck on your stick. And also making my job and my responsibilities very simple and very clear. Essentially like just work your bag off, don't get scored on, and just get a clean pass out. Like, just keep it simple. Don't have to worry about it. We got the guns that can take care of the rest. Just make sure you're solid on your end defensively. If you get no goals scored on you, then we're happy with how you played. And so if you keep they kept those, I guess the expectations quite low. They did. I guess that's one way to put it. They thought, just don't mess up. But that gave me more confidence. And then as I felt like as I got more, I was good at executing those things that they wanted me to execute on, then they would slowly give me more ice time and I would get exposed to more. And then actually, then the next part was just being more consistent.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about like back to what the league was then, it was very hard. Like you said, you're like the only rookie to like come into the team. When you think about how like young the AHL is now and how many younger players, so much speed, back then it was super hard to crack the lineup. And for a lot of teams, all throughout Australia. So I think that you got given the opportunity, and I definitely feel, so lucky that I had the opportunity to go up and play with the Bears, even for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that, not everyone was given that, throughout Australia.
Who was your guy that had like you felt like brought you under his
their wing.
Yeah.
Well, the Bears at that time, it was quite, it was a little bit difficult for me. You were talking about, you got, they would tell you different lessons and things. I actually didn't speak Czech, so a lot of it I didn't actually understand. So I was kind of out there just like swinging my stick and just trying to slightly understand. So maybe that's where I didn't really progress to that next level.
That's on you though. You got to learn a bit of Czech.
Yeah, I'm not good at languages.
You got Vlad out there.
I definitely learned some visual cues though. The stare, the look. I knew I did wrong. Okay, I'll sit now. I'll just go over here.
If you didn't give him the puck, then that was essentially that's a no-no.
You got to dish it. You got to dish it.
Snap it to me straight away,
Straight
Sean.
to the skates.
And I'm more than happy with your game after that.
No, it was good, but yeah, definitely. I mean, look, Bubba Robertson, he was out there when I was there. Was in there while I was there.
Was shout out,
Yeah, friend of the pod. Yeah.
Legend, absolute legend.
So yeah, it was good. But now, I'm talking about roles because I just want to bring this up. So you definitely, they gave you some objectives to hit out there. One objective I'm just going to bring up here. 2012 season, Brian Funes 113 penalty minutes.
Oh my God.
What were you doing out there? Were you dropping them like every shift?
Dude, so like I think the reason why I got so many PIMs looking back, and it wasn't because of fighting. That's the funny part about that. I don't think there was a fight at all that was part of those minutes. I think this was the year where they had this weird visor rule where if it wasn't covering your nose, so like some guys sort of like pop it up. That was your style. I remember back in the day, you're a big visor popper.
The bubble still covered the face though. It didn't matter. It was still there.
The one bolted on. So like I don't know what it was. They were like, when they bring in a new rule, they just like really hammer it at the beginning, and they just make really big point of like, this is what we're enforcing. It was this visor infraction, and you got like a 10-minute penalty.
Yeah.
And I think I got like a bunch of those 10-minute penalties for a visor infraction. So that explains why. Like, and probably there was a few, there's it's still an ice dog, so there's probably a few roughing penalties in there.
Okay,
maybe a
well,
couple.
You definitely cleaned it
slashes.
up because 2013 you only had 57.
See?
PIMs. So
like
the progression is just
That was, I think it was that weird visor infraction rule, and then I switched to I think those old school iTech ones that were like bolted onto the framed ones.
And so I mean, the Dogs dynasty of an organization, and then you had a few key players move out of the squad coming into 2014, and then 2015 you get the captaincy, which is awesome. So I mean, what did that look like? Like after so many years of those same guys in there, and then you're a veteran essentially.
Yeah, so it was weird coming into that season. There were a few guys that decided to step away from hockey, like family obligations, all that sort of stuff. Some guys went to other teams for whatever reasons. So Shannon, McGregor, and myself ended up, we look around and like, oh, we're the veterans of the team now. Like I think we're like 24, 25-ish, I think, around about that. And all of a sudden sort of like thrust into that role of being not only like a veteran and a leader, but like a captain, which was, essentially just so that, well, there's a deep end, go for a swim. See how you go, kid. It was weird because like it was quite a young team in 2015. A lot of guys coming up from the East Coast. It was weird dynamic because before you sort of realize how important it is to have like a solid core of veterans to really reinforce the culture and the little detail things that might get looked over. So that's what I noticed the most, was that when you sort of get put into that position, usually you can lean on a couple of guys like, hey, let this guy know this, or let's make sure we do that. Detail stuff really stand out a lot more when you don't have that veteran presence to really support you as a leader. So it was a bit of a learning experience, but I'm grateful for, looking back, I'm grateful for going through those growing pains so early.
And I mean, then 2016, you're moving over to the Bears. I mean, that is like sacrilege.
The
for
AIHL blogs were going
Sydney
nuts.
Sydney Ice Dogs player, like
more or less went viral. I'm like, how could you?
I mean, it was a big one. That's a big move.
Yeah,
but one that you needed to make.
Hockey Twitter going on fire.
So how did that look? Like coming into a different organization. I mean, you've been, Flyers and Dogs like your whole career essentially. Yeah. So what was that like walking into the Bears?
Yeah, it was interesting because, like for some guys, I'll never play for the Bears type mentality. And I feel like I was kind of like that at one point as a young kid, once you get indoctrinated or you just grow up in it, you kind of, you feel like, I'll be a one club guy for my whole career. And, but just with how things sort of unfolded, more so Ronnie becoming the head coach for that team. So since he brought me into the Dogs and gave me my shot at the AIHL level, I felt comfortable going over to the Bears, and had a couple of guys that came over with us, Billy Cliff and Kimmer as well. And I knew, like, how it is in hockey in Sydney. If you're at a certain level, you sort of see the same characters as you come up. So I got some faces and people that I grew up playing with anyway, whether it be at a state level or national team level. Like our friend Spencer Austin, shout out.
Spence, a big friend of the pod, right?
Friend of the pod. Yeah. Raptors legend, Bears legend. He those guys as well, and with having Ronnie on the bench, that sort of made it a lot more comfortable with the transition to come across. So it was awkward at the beginning, especially with the first game against the Dogs, which I ended up having a fight with the next teammate. But
bound to happen.
I knew it comes with the territory. If you're going to go from like one side to the other, it doesn't matter the sport, or if there's a rivalry there, you're going to cop it from a couple of guys. So if not a few fans. So I knew there was a few fans out there that made me.
It's all in. It's all in
hey, that's sport. That's and that's the fun part of it. It made the first game very interesting. And
I remember there was some heat around that. Like it was good. But you got through it.
Yeah, especially when I had to find for once play against Whitey, and that was weird. I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna not go one-on-one against you. I'll just chip it in and curl away. But I'm cool. I'm good, thanks.
All right, so 2017, assistant captain for the Bears.
Yep.
Get the leadership role.
Yep.
You've already done it before, and Schlamp was your captain?
Yeah.
Yep, so that's awesome. So, the Bears' progression, moving on and up, and there was still a core veteran group within that team, wasn't there?
Yeah, so that was, coming into the team in 2016 was, they were sort of knocking at the door of getting into the finals weekend, and obviously that was our main objective. But having the letter put back onto my chest for now playing for the Bears, for me it was more just trying to be just steady Eddie, just being the guy to just try and replicate what I saw when I was a rookie coming into the league, and the things that I sort of picked up from the veterans coming through with the Dogs, with all those legends. I just relied on that.
Yeah.
Guys like Bert Malloy, shout out Bert. He was a great leader. Willow as well, great captain for the Dogs as well. Just trying to be that presence in the locker room where you make the guys feel safe out on the ice, but also in between periods as well, trying to keep a calm presence, or just say a few things here and there to steady the ship if need be.
Yep.
So that was mainly my goal
Yeah.
when I had the assistant captain role, just to support Schlampy and Ronnie with what their vision was, and just
Yep.
sort of echo what they were trying to get.
And 2018, a different bit of travel, heading to Sweden. HC Lidköping.
Yeah, close enough. So Lidköping.
Lidköping, there it is.
Lidköping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an amazing experience. For me, I always wanted to go overseas again. That was on my list as well.
Yep.
I had another buddy that had played in Sweden in the past, Cam Todd, who's now
Cam Todd, big friend of the pod.
Yeah, we've got to get him on. I'm sure he's got some amazing stories. So shout out to Cam. He had played Division 1 in Sweden, and there was one of the, this was when he was with the Bears, one of the Bears alumni, Chris Beck, who helped me out as well in terms of finding a team to try out over there for. It was a Division 3 team, so it was just whatever I could do to get to Sweden. I didn't mind what it was. They said, look, we'll give you a tryout, essentially, for a couple of weeks. See how you go. Went up with Adrian Esposito. Shout out. So he came with me, and we were both lucky enough to get picked for the team. And then they hooked us up with an apartment and jobs and all that sort of stuff once we were locked in.
That is epic. Sweden is the best.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, so if guys are going to be playing overseas, I think give Sweden a crack. Now it's a lot more common. There's a lot more guys, a lot more Aussies that have gone over. I know a lot of the Melbourne Ice guys that had there was a few Swedes that
they had that
came and
connection.
played. They had the coach with a couple of those amazing Swedish players. They won the cup that year, and I think they had some sort of agreement with Tranås. I think the team's called Tranås or something like that. There's a few Melbourne Ice guys that went over there. One of the guys on the Bears right now, Tommy Stevens, he came back from playing Division 1 as well. Shout out Tommy. It's getting more popular, and I do recommend looking towards, because it's an amazing country. As you know, everyone speaks English there, so you're not going to be struggling. I still only know a handful of words in Swedish, and I got by just fine.
Moving right along, good old cup. You guys.
Yes.
You go all the way.
The miracle on ice.
Did you feel that you had a good chance in the start of the season? Did you think, it's all kind of shaping up, imports, players, we've got a good chance here? Or how did that all kind of come together?
Yeah, I think for me, at the start of the season, we were quite confident that we would definitely make the Final Four. If we didn't make the Final Four, I feel like that would have been a failure on our part, just with the core that we have. And then once the imports started coming in, I realized, okay, we got a really good team here. We got a shot.
Yeah.
And even though Canberra just kept on chugging along, they just kept on winning and winning and winning. I think they only lost 2 games that year, or it was definitely less than 4 from what I remember, and they just seemed unstoppable because their imports were unreal too. They had an unreal import goalie. Their forward was just scoring left and right. But I knew we had a good chance because we had beaten. I think we were one of the teams that beat them. So I knew that if we played our best game against them in the finals, it's a one game series. So you just have to perform on the night. And luckily for us, everyone, not just the imports, everyone stepped it up in that semi-final game against Canberra. And it was a cracker.
And meeting them in the semi-final was the upset
altogether.
That
was even so I kind of thought,
because I was in the stands. I was in the stands at Newcastle, and pretty much everyone around me had counted the Bears out. They were Canberra's got this; they're going through.
Yeah,
but
I think at that point, if you were a betting man, it'd be silly to bet against Canberra at that point because they only lost 2 games and they just looked unbeatable. But I think we knew that we had the guys in the change room that could do it. As long as we executed our game plan, which we did perfectly. And then, on top of that, we have studs like Dowds, who was one of our imports, Danik, who just turned it up like. He had like 2 more gears in him, and I didn't even realize. Like I'm watching him play in the first period. I'm looking at him and like this is next level. Like I think he was just playing at like 30-40% during the regular season, and then he just turned it up another notch and just was absolutely dominant. And obviously Kimmer did his thing. There was a couple of big breakaways that he stopped there in that game, and Bruxy scored an unreal goal as well. So, you got the locals as well contributing. And yeah, it was an amazing game to be a part of. Like, just to have that, unstoppable force meets immovable object type game.
Yep.
And it was just on a razor's edge from start to finish. And it felt good. Yeah. And with the context of us losing to Canberra the year before in overtime, where we were like just so close to beating them.
Yeah.
And now that it just so happened that we ended up being 4th because we'd stumbled, through the regular season. Like they were consistent, and we were like this, and they're like, cool, we made it to finals weekend. Let's just have the best game of our lives on the Saturday, and then just try and repeat it for the Sunday. And it ended up working out, and it was very satisfying having that win.
Yeah, so I mean, what would you say? Like, okay, so you're in the AIHL, you've worked all the way up, you've played all the divisions, played for the Australian team many times. If you were giving some advice to like a peewee or a bantam age player coming up of like, they really want to make that national team, they want to keep making state teams, what is the best thing that they can do to help themselves progress? What would you say to them?
So I found for me, especially from like the context of not having that much ice time. So the stuff that you can do on the ice, get on the ice as much as you can, stick and park, all that sort of stuff, it goes without saying. But stuff away from the rink that I recommend, I've been using Mars blades ever since the company started, probably 6-7 years ago. And for me, as an ice hockey player that's going into inline and uses inline as a training tool, that's probably the best product that I've used to just mimic that on-ice feel as much as possible as you can.
Yeah.
Green Biscuit, unreal product.
Yeah.
Wish I had that when I was a younger player. And also the wraparound, unreal product in terms of like
keeping composite stick perfect and not
like
get
even if you
scratched
can't,
up.
even if you like can't get a wraparound, old school 2-piece as well. I've used that as well.
Like wooden blades, ABS core means you can play outdoors.
Yeah, exactly. Those 3 products were huge for me.
And do you think that like that off-ice training, like as you're progressing through, do you think that having the ability to play outdoor and not be reliant on like your training session or your game, you were able to figure out whatever it was that you wanted to get better at, whether it be moving the puck or puck handling or skating with it or just any moves?
100%.
Do you think that's what comes into it?
100%. I think it's just getting those reps in. So if you can mimic whatever aspect of the game that you want to work on, it can be simple. So if you're like a young kid that's at that peewee age level, just practicing skating, puck handling with your head up.
Yeah.
Simple drills. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. You don't have to do anything crazy. Find something that you want to work on, and then you're able to get more reps in away from the ice than what you would on the ice. So for me, that was huge. Like
just that time with the puck and working on it.
Yeah.
Like even if you're not doing the specific drills, like I know for me it was huge because I didn't grow up watching NHL. Like we didn't have Foxtel. Like I didn't have a huge exposure to it. Probably why I was never a thinking man's player. But to get better, like I couldn't.
Rock'em sock'em videos from Don Cherry.
Just on repeat.
Yeah.
But I couldn't. That's the only thing I could do. So I just skated every day and just tried to work on it. And I think as players coming up, if you're puck handling every day and rollerblading and skating, you can't not get better and improve. And it's like if you're doing that, even if the guy next to you is better, you're going to be better than him soon because you got more time with it.
Yeah, it's just putting the time in and just getting those reps in. And I also found that it's awkward at the beginning because you're just self-conscious and your ego gets in the way. But put your ego in your back pocket and record yourself either playing or training, and record yourself doing those reps and recognizing, watch yourself, watch that footage again, and then, comparing it to like XYZ player that you want to replicate and try and be your own coach. Find the little weaknesses in your own game, and you'll be able to just slowly chip away and unlock those skills. At the beginning, it's just, unlocking the skill as a kid.
Yeah.
And then it's getting comfortable with the skill by repeating it and being able to execute it in a game situation. So that comes from just doing it over and over and over again. And, unfortunately, because we're in Australia, we're fighting for one little patch of ice with the speed skaters, figure skaters, general skaters, all the above. Using that time away from the rink and jumping on rollerblades is huge. And I even did it with I was lucky enough to, grow up through the 2000s era where inline was still it was still around quite strong, the community. We had a lot of inline guys come over to play ice, guys like Nathan Walker, Billy Cliff, there's a whole list I can go through. But I was lucky enough to have those guys that would play outdoor hockey. So that was you can also do it in a fun way as well, like that pond hockey style.
Yeah.
That's why over in the Northern Hemisphere, they have the ponds where they can you can try the stuff they wouldn't dare try in a practice, and it makes it more fun where you can, have a bit more of that playful experience as well. We don't have any ponds that freeze over here, so concrete is just as good with some inline skates. I mean, concrete never melts, but that was huge for me. Once I started leaning into more of the inline stuff and using it consciously as a tool to help me develop on the ice, was massive for me.
All right, so Bears in 2023, how you feeling? Season's underway.
Yeah,
you're rolling.
Yeah. So for now, I think we've had about 5 games in. Doing well. Only one loss against Newcastle, which was a 1-goal game. And they're looking like one of the teams to beat. Or they'll be up the top of the table for their conference. I feel very confident with our squad, who we have, our imports, solid top to bottom. Obviously, Ronnie's still coaching. So I think we have a good chance of not only making the Final Four, but hopefully making the grand final. We just fell short against Newcastle last year. It was one of those plays that just rebounds around in front of the net, and just so happened to find a Newcastle stick, and that was the overtime winner in that second semi-final against Newcastle. So we'd like to have that one back, keep that in the memory bank to. Because it's just so close when it comes to those finals weekends. All you need to do is just get yourself there to the finals weekend, and one goal, one game semi, one game grand final. So anyone can win it. And so I like our chances, but we gotta execute here. So
and a couple of new additions, Brisbane and the Rhinos. I mean, it must be interesting going back to Erina again. Back in the old days.
Yeah, it was good. I love that rink. It's a phenomenal rink, and when they pack it out, it's unreal when they're banging on the seats and stuff, and that place can rock.
Yeah.
Great ice there as well. Brisbane, the rink is okay. It's all right. It is what it is, but it's good to have those teams in. Brisbane's a market that haven't had an opportunity to have an AIHL team for a while since the old Blue Tongues days. Yeah. I think I only played them one season in 2011. So, they haven't been around for a while. I guess we have the PHL to thank for that.
I guess we do.
I guess it was just a weird year last year.
It's a weird time. I'm glad we're through it.
That was strange.
Yeah, I'm glad that everyone's
allowed to talk about that.
I'm glad that everyone's back together and that we're in one top league. And I think maybe the only thing, I don't know, but maybe a good thing about it was that more players got exposure to a top level. Maybe that confidence of playing there can help them on their journey. So I think we got to be thankful for that.
It was just interesting how it all sort of unfolded. The PHL sort of came in, guns blazing, was taken aback. I'm like, what is this? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Since when did we got a new league now? What's happening? Who's going where? Like, and you're hearing like this player's going there, this player's going there, or they're going to have teams here and they're going to try and expand and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, whatever happened with that league doesn't matter. I'm just glad that, like what you said, more guys have an opportunity to showcase their skill, especially the Queensland market. They've got some good players there. They've always had a good turnout for their Browns tournament. So it's good that they have a bit of they've got their market there, and playing up there is good fun. Can't complain.
This week's episode proudly presented by.
The Hyperlite 2 skate is built for pro-level players looking for maximum quickness and unrivaled agility. The Hyperlite 2 skate will be arriving in late July. Stay tuned for more.
Yeah, I remember playing the Blue Tongues, and that was always a great roadie.
Well, it was Gold Coast, so that was...
Yeah, it was great. The
was
accommodation up there was epic, like on the massive mountain, that like resort hotel thing.
Dude, that was my first road trip. Was like the Gold
welcome
Coast
to the league,
one. Like, that was a real welcome to the league moment. Especially we had the Saturday game and went for a few tinnies afterwards, and then just to relax, relax the muscles, go for dinner, and then the next day, the ice, there was a massive crack in the middle of the ice.
Really?
So we rocked up for the game, and I'm like, oh, we can't play here. Like, this is unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We cancelled the game. Like,
so everyone went to the beach. Yeah.
Straight to the pub. Just go straight there. Like, well, we got no Sunday game, so might as well enjoy the Gold Coast.
What it used to be.
A nice, beautiful, sunny day in the Gold Coast. So can't complain.
So now, I want to ask you this: what else is going on with you outside of the rink? Outside of we know that you're the manager here at Sydney. So what else are you doing? Have you got other passion projects
Yeah, so for me, I have a background in graphic design, so that's what I studied at uni, and I love art and painting and all that sort of stuff. So I'm doing a lot more of that now, trying to sell my artwork, and I do custom sneakers as well. So painting like Jordans, Air Force Ones, any shoe you want, I'll hook it up. I have that creative side of me that I've always had since a kid. Those my two big passions were ice hockey and drawing or painting or just any sort of thing like that. I'm starting my own brand, doing my own customs brand, where I'll be, offering my services to, paint some sneakers or sell some artwork and stuff like that. So,
that's awesome.
Just working.
Have you
on
ever
that.
painted a pair of Birkenstocks? Because these are looking.
I was eyeballing those, and I was seeing you actually want them in the shot. It looks like I'm just seeing how it looks like.
No, we're not painting them.
I don't know how we're framing this, but we're getting a good look at it. We can do a bit of what are those? Look comfy as hell though.
They're all about.
Hey man, if you want
comfort.
a cool little design on it, I'll
lay off, Brian. All right, I'm a dad now. All right, I'm a dad now. I can wear this kind of stuff.
You can be the cool dad.
I'm washed up. I'm a dad. I'm happy.
Well, New Balances are hot again.
I've got a pair. I'll wear them next time.
There you go. But I don't know about the Berkeys.
All right, fire question round.
Okay.
Fastest answer. You just got to answer as quick as possible. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hit you with it.
Okay, quick off the line.
Best player you've ever played with?
Oh, there's two that I can think of straight away. Simon Barg. He was our import for the Dogs. He's next level. He's one of those players that makes everyone look good.
Yeah.
And also, this is just AIHL that I'm thinking of. And also Danik. Danik was one of those guys who was just turned it on and was just a beast. I blocked one of his shots in practice and felt it for 3 weeks.
All right. Question 2. Best teammate in the room?
Oh, in terms of just
best teammate,
just getting the giggles going around,
best teammate, yep.
Getting just keeping it this one comes to mind straight away. Just the guy that keeps the locker room nice and light, a lot of laughs. He can make people laugh in a funeral. Manx, I think Manx he was pretty good to getting the guys nice and relaxed, and back then he'd come with a few crazy stories of the night before of whatever whatever
Training.
whatever
Training.
whatever
Training. Yeah.
Let's just say whatever
Amazing.
situations he'd get himself into. So he was good for some stories and a few laughs.
Awesome. All right. White tape, black tape
White tape.
style.
Yep.
Very good.
I flip flop, but I'm white at the moment. Yeah.
Breakaway, 2-on-1. Are you passing or sniping? Big game moment, like the finals.
Okay, if I'm on, so it all depends on who I'm with.
So it
So
depends on the player.
if I look over and there's...
Okay, if I'm there with you.
Oh, if you're with me?
Yeah.
I'm sniping for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's-
passing.
all
No
right,
chance.
yeah, that's probably a good
I want the
good
glory
option.
on that one.
Yeah.
If it comes off your toe on the pass, no, I'll never let that down.
Epic. All right, well, Brian, I think that just about wraps up the podcast.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
glad that we could take a trip down memory lane and
Yes.
talk about where it all came from and
Yeah.
how it all started for you, because I think you're just still getting better every season. So I'm
appreciate
excited
it,
to
mate.
see what you can do with the Bears, and yeah. And so we've got a few things coming up. We've
tell me.
got you and I were going to be doing this podcast, and we're going to be going deep with all different players, coaches, female players, younger players from all throughout the league.
Yeah.
We really want to find out those stories and just learn more about the Australian hockey community. I think for so long, like, I've been vocal about it, and everyone I talk to in the hockey world is like, we are competing against rugby league, rugby union, cricket, and they've just got so many people. But
Netball.
I think it's up to us as players to really get that message out there. Like, if we want more players and we want the sport to grow and get more funding, more sponsorship, get the government on board with us even more, I think we have to be vocal about the sport itself. And to our friends, if they want to try hockey, lend them a stick, give them a puck, get them out there, encourage them to start playing in the sport. And I know that ice time is short anyway, and we don't really have that space essentially, but we need more people in there, and we need to get it out. So look, if you like the pod, share it with your friends, post it on social media, do whatever, drop a comment,
Like, subscribe, all the above.
That's
Are
it.
we putting it on YouTube as well?
YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Yeah, anywhere where you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're not inclined to, having a look at us for
That's
however
right.
long this ends up going for.
And now, look, I can't guarantee that it is going to be anywhere as good as some of the podcasts out there, Spit and Chicklets, that's what I'm talking about. But I can guarantee that it will be focused on the Australian game and our hockey community. So stay tuned. It's going to be good. We're working through it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited for this podcast and being a part of it as well. So I appreciate you doing a little deep dive into my
well, it's good. I think
my weird hockey career, but
I think plenty of people know who you are and they've seen you here at the store. But it's nice to go back and look at the full story, and that's what we're all about. So
we'll do a little deep dive on you too. I gotta try.
Maybe
and
just a small section. Won't take long.
Yeah, we'll do.
Not a lot of points to count or anything.
Yeah, I might have some questions for you too, buddy. So just
We'll see.
I'll try and dig up some stories on you.
All right, Brian.
We'll
Thank you very
wrap it up.
much.
Thanks, brother.
See you later.
Pleasure. Peace.